Stigmatization around mental health still exists. In the last several years, there's been an uptick in shared treatment experiences, specifically for those who were in treatment as an adolescent over the last 30 years. As a consultant working with young adults only, it's been unsettling to hear about the horrific experiences that some folks have described. As someone trained as a counselor, we were taught to do no harm. I lead with this for each client I work with. While recording this special parent series, over the last year, several parents have suggested I interview their young adults. The special parent series is noted as being just that. It's about the parent perspective only. I'm now branching out to launch the former participant series, extending the opportunity for former participants who feel comfortable talking about their journey, doing so on this podcast. No topic is off limits, and not all stories are positive. This series is meant to be honest, transparent, and real for each individual's experience through the treatment continuum. Please note that this special former participant series is the adult's perspective of their treatment experience during adolescence or as a young adult. This is merely one perspective of a single story, and it's important to know that names have been changed for the protection of the interviewee unless they have requested not to do so. These episodes may include details surrounding suicide, self-harm, substance abuse, including overdose, hospitalizations, psychotic episodes, and other traumatic experiences which include parts of the treatment journey. That includes working with consultants, being escorted by a transport company, wilderness therapy, and a residential treatment program. All that is to say, listener discretion is advised. Welcome to an episode with a former participant in treatment.
It's time now for the Success is Subjective podcast. Here is your host and therapeutic consultant for young adults only, Joanna Lilley.
Hi, and welcome to the show. If you're new here, I'm glad to have you. This podcast was formed to collectively build a bank of stories from normal people sharing their non-linear paths. Unfortunately, social media paints a narrow picture of what success looks like, so I'm doing my best to spread the news that changing course is common and you don't have to know what you want to do the rest of your life at 18. If you're a parent worried about your young adult and whether their path is leading them to success, you're in the right place. I'm a therapeutic consultant who works with young adults to connect them with resources that'll help them get back on that path to success. So if you're curious, let's chat. You can schedule a free consultation through my website. Today's guest is Fred Palmer. Fred is a licensed alcohol and drug counselor, certified addiction specialist, and certified recovery coach. He works as a career educator in Colorado State University's Career Center and as an adjunct professor in the School of Social Work. In addition to these roles, he has a career coaching private practice focused specifically on young adults in recovery and with a history of problematic substance use. Fred was drawn to this work during his own recovery journey and experiences in multiple residential treatment centers before he turned 21. Helping others find their passions and purpose in early recovery is where he is focusing his efforts these days, as well as advocacy for creating more recovery-friendly workplaces. He lives in Fort Collins, Colorado with his wife and dog, and he likes getting into the mountains often for outdoor adventures and type 2 fun. Let's not wait any longer. Here's Fred. Fred, thanks for being on the podcast.
My pleasure. This has been great.
We're going to jump right in because I know a little bit of your story only because we recently met and I kind of heard a fleeting comment about like some of the experiences you've had, but I don't know the full story. So let's start with actually, where did you grow up and what was some of the messaging that you were receiving? I think this is important, right? We're talking about location because I think geography plays an important role in kind of the values placed on education and what you're supposed to be doing as a young adult. So tell us where you grew up and then talk about kind of what was going on. Like what was the messaging, what you're supposed to be doing after high school?
Yeah, I grew up in Newport, Rhode Island. So I'm from the Northeast.
I did not know that.
Yeah. Not a lot of people from Rhode Island. So whenever I meet folks when I'm traveling, they're like, no way, you're from Rhode Island. We probably know somebody in common. So a lot of the messaging around like education when I grew up, I went to private school from 2nd grade through 12th grade. I wore like literally the same Catholic school uniform for 11 years. Didn't change. And a lot of the messaging was like college track. This is, kind of where you're going to go. And I was not a fan of school.
So then did you go to college? Like that's the question.
Yeah. So I took a gap year after like parent sanctioned, encouraged gap year. I mean, when I was in high school, I started getting into trouble with, smoking weed and drinking, and had some conflict for sure with my parents then, and thought taking a gap year would kind of fix a lot of that stuff. So I actually went to Switzerland for a year and volunteered at this international boarding school there, and had a lot of fun. Did the whole like kind of tramping around Europe thing and partying and snowboarding, and it was phenomenal. And I had deferred from going to CU Boulder for a year, and that was my plan. That was what I was going to do when I went back. And I made it like 6 weeks maybe, like into the first semester, where I was just like partying all the time. I don't know if it's a party if you're just by yourself getting high all day long, but that was what I was doing, and dropped out and was just like bumping along, trying to find, I had a really hard time finding any sort of like part-time work to even support myself. So then I moved home to the East Coast, or back to where my parents lived, moved in with them, and sort of was just battling mental health challenges at that time that I hadn't really realized that I had. And some things were just undiagnosed, but my substance use definitely spiraled, and there was a lot more conflict with my parents at that point this is when I was 19. And I was just like really lost. I didn't have a direction. I was back working retail at this like outdoor sports shop. Like that's all I wanted to do. Like I hated school when I was growing up, and like I found community at my job of like people in their mid-20s who just like, oh yeah, we like go hiking and smoke weed. And like I was like, that's all I want to do. Like too. Wow, great. And so I went back to that job. And then as far as, are we getting into like the treatment side, or what do you want to, where do you want to go?
I'm letting you roll. Go for it.
I could probably talk for 30 minutes, like uninterrupted. So then I did get, like, I got a possession charge, and that's what sort of kicked off my journey into like the treatment world. I mean, I had a lot of conflict. I had kind of done one-off counseling sessions because my parents were like, if you're under our roof, you have to see this and talk to this person. They just wanted me to, I was just kind of spiraling, and they wanted me to at least have some direction. Kept encouraging me to go back, even community college, like just, take a couple classes. And I was like, no, screw that. And then I got this charge. I had to do like drug court IOP at this local provider. And my substance use got way worse. I was just introduced to people who were using substances that I hadn't tried yet, and I was totally game. I was like, yeah, let's hang out after. And so because of that, I was like, okay, I failed the drug test and things are going to get bad for me. And I was like, I'm just going to move back to Colorado. Like that was my plan. And I sort of had like an intervention with one of the nurses that was at the IOP. Like my parents were like, just talk to somebody. And she was just really honest about her own lived experience. And I hadn't had that before. Everyone had kind of been like wagging a finger at me of like sort of the drugs are bad messaging and like you need to stay sober because blah, blah, blah. But I hadn't talked to someone who kind of got it. And that was like literally the first connection I had. And she was like, you should probably follow this, like take this opportunity to go to a 20-day inpatient residential treatment center. And at that point I was like, didn't really know what else I would do. I was like, I kind of want to get rid of this legal issue I have going on, and maybe it'll get my parents off my back. And it seems like my job is like not stoked that I'm just like stoned all day long and drinking after work, like all night basically. And so that was, there were some good motivators there. I really enjoyed inpatient treatment. So I went to this place called Ashley Treatment Addiction Center in Maryland. And I was like, I'm game. Like, I don't need to carry a phone or a wallet. Like I could just carry like, a pen, chapstick, and my like notebook for like the session. And I'm just like playing shuffleboard with some like old guys. And
that's not what all treatment's like.
No. But I was like lucky to be under the umbrella of like my parents' health insurance at the time when I was young, and I had that support. And so, yes, I've worked in now treatment centers quite like kind of across the spectrum. So I was like, wow, I was really fortunate. I did not make the most of that experience. And following that, I went to, I can just keep rambling about my treatment thing. So I don't know.
I mean, this is, you're going with the flow. We are going with the flow.
Okay.
What we will eventually fast forward to is like, all right, there is obviously a recovery process to this, right? You're talking about your recovery journey. And what we want to eventually get to is like that journey taking you to where you are now.
Yeah.
So keep it going.
Okay. We're still in it. So, and then after that, I realized like I could not stay sober. Part of me did want to find recovery. I had been exposed to some peer support in that program, and I got out and I felt like I was in the same spot as I was before. And I started going to meetings and trying to reach out. And then I realized like, well, this isn't if I can take there was like some offered aftercare to go to sober living. And I did that event. Like after a week of being out, I was like, this is not a good environment for me. So I went to a foundation house in Portland, Maine. And it was cool because this week I've been able to connect with the folks who work there at the conference, and just like kind of catch up, because I was not their like gold star. Like I can pull off that gold star like client, like if I need to. And so after I got kicked out the first time, that was me. I was like, okay, fine. I'll do the walk. And I was there for a while, but I love Portland, Maine. And I started to get a direction of like, I took a class at a community college when I was there, and I was like, okay, maybe college isn't that bad if I can just take what I'm interested in. But like exiting out of that program, I was still like kind of planning my relapse, and this was like the beginning of the end of the beginning of my recovery, or the beginning of the end, whatever it is, like, and so I left that, and I struggled hard for a couple months with, I was definitely using much harder substances at that point, and was I got scared for my own like well-being, and I had like some pretty significant health consequences as a result of my use. And I had heard some folks talking about this other treatment center, Mountainside in Connecticut. It was like that, or going to some place in Florida. And I was like, it sounds too soft. I need something like grittier. And I'm staying in the Northeast during winter. I was like, that's what I need right now. I don't want to go like get comfortable. I was like desperate at that point. I was like, came to my therapist, and I was like in tears. And I was like, I really need help. Ready. And that was the point for me. I was just like in my soul totally depleted. And I was like that willingness of like, okay, I'm ready to accept the help. And hearing other people's stories about a lot of what I'm saying today, like I've heard a lot of people with similar stuff, and it only clicked for me once I experienced it. And then I went there and I was like, I'm in it. I like literally tell me anything. And there was like 12-step that didn't necessarily resonate with me in a lot of ways, but I was like, yeah, I'll pray. Sure. Like whatever. Like Catholic school kind of got me out of that groove, but if I have to do this, like fine. And then I did thereafter. I was like, I don't want to leave. Like I was really I was like, I can't go back to what I was doing before. Like, let me stay. And they had a work stay program at the time. I think it's gotten quite a bit more luxury boutique than it was when I was there, but it was like, okay, you can stay here, you work in this double wide trailer is where you're going to be living. And it was like bug infested. And I was like,
it's not like that anymore.
No, I heard that. I look at their website every once in a while, cause I'm on the alumni newsletter, and I'm like, nope. But yeah, we got paid to be there. It was like $100 a week or something like that. And we got room and board. And that was where I was starting to find my like direction. Cause I was like, well, I had no idea. I don't want to work in the outdoor industry, like selling, like
gear forever.
It's not
for
like,
everybody.
And I did enjoy that. And I do go back to that in the future at some point, but it was like not where I felt like I could really find purpose. And this like intern program that they had at the treatment center where I was like, aha, like this is what I want to do. There was an adventure-based component. And so I worked I got like the one spot in like the adventure-based counseling program. And so I helped with like the challenge courses and doing sweat lodges and leading hikes. And I was like, this is my mission. Like I would just this is like combining my love of the outdoors with like, all the stuff recovery that really saved me. And so I was able to stay there. Eventually they were like, okay, well, this isn't like a forever program that you can just stay here forever. And so I went to a place at the time called Hopewell. Now it's Strathmore House in Boston. And I was there as a resident for a couple months, and then they offered me, I was like now at the point of like, okay, like, I don't think we can afford this any longer. And I like I was kind of like, I don't know if I'm ready to leave. And they were like, well, if you want, actually our house manager's leaving and we'll give you that spot. And so I could get still like, okay, paid and room and board. And so it was fantastic. And I did that for about 6 months, and I was working outdoor retail on the side and starting to think about going back to school, but I really wanted to just like dive into like school, I'd always kind of thought I had this narrative of like, I was scared of failure, and I saw school as something that I couldn't succeed in because I hadn't in the past. And so I pushed that off, but I did go, I got a connection to Outward Bound in the Boston area. They have a base on one of the islands. And so the director of Mountainside at the time, like, had a connection to someone there and put me in touch. And it was one of those like, okay, here's like, you're in. And so I did that for a summer, and then moved with the girl back out to Colorado, because I was like, I think I can do Colorado again. Like, I can kind of give it a different shot. And so I taught snowboarding as part-time, and then I ended up getting a job at the local detox. And I was like, okay, this is going to keep me connected to recovery. And it did. I did that for 3 winters, like kind of the ski season. I worked at this detox, and I loved it. I was like, I love the grittiness of like this type of work. And it kept me close, obviously, to like people in very early, I don't even know, like recovery, active use. And I started to I went back to school, and I would travel in the summer. I worked at Open Sky Wilderness Therapy for a summer, and that got me actually motivated to go back for my education. And I did outdoor education associates. And I was like, I'm actually kind of good at school. Like, I kind of like it. Like, when you go back in your mid-20s, and I had been like kind of hit a wall in the mental health field, like, okay, you can't get a job. Like, so I kind of hit a wall of like, okay, they're like, HR's not hiring me for this case manager job that I thought I'd be good at. I've been here longer than, like, detox was a revolving door, but I kept coming back. And, yeah, I was like, okay, maybe this education thing is like going to take me somewhere. And so I did outdoor education at Colorado Mountain College, and I loved it. Yeah. I was like, got my general educations out of the way. It was like $60 a credit. And I was like, and like kind of felt like I was supporting myself in this process, and got a lot of parental support and family who was like looking at me, and I was like, I'm doing well. Yeah. And then I was like, okay, well, what's next? I met my now wife at Copper Mountain, and we were kind of looking at like, okay, maybe I want to get my 4-year degree, and I didn't know what I was going to do. And I literally, the only way that I found social work was, honestly, I was walking, like I would spend my nights walking through like the clinical side of like there's a detox and there's a clinical wing for the day staff. I like hardly ever saw them because I was like 9 p.m. to 7 a.m. But I literally walked and just saw the plaques and people's letters after their name, and like was Googling like what these different like licensures or like master's degrees were. And I was like, well, I see MSW or like something with like social work seems to be pretty popular. I have no idea what it was, but I was like, oh, I want to study addictions and just like help people in recovery. And so that's what I did. They had a good like transition from a local, Colorado Community College into Colorado State University. And my sister was going there at the time, and I'd been to Fort Collins like once. And so I was like, it seems fine. I'll apply to like the one school. And then, yeah, I got in, and this is kind of accelerates to where I am now. Cause I moved there in 2017 and didn't know how long we would stay, but it was just like one thing after another where I, new place, I didn't have any connections. I was applying to like random jobs, like in kind of the helping industry, healthcare, and long stay, like nursing, home care, older adults. And then I eventually got a job offer doing homeless street outreach with Outreach Fort Collins. And I loved it. It was like the blend of the grittiness and like being outside and kind of like being able to de-escalate people. But really it was about forming relationships. And I just like loved being out there and with my coworkers, and I was doing school and I was working there part-time, and it just like snowballed into different opportunities in the working with folks who are unhoused and really seeing the intersection. And there's just like so much more beyond substance use that I was exposed to, mostly in my social work program though. Like I had just kind of been pretty oblivious to a lot of the social justice issues that I feel like have come into like public consciousness more and more in the last few years. And then I just like wanted to keep doing school. So I went and enrolled in.
Never left.
I was like, I never want to do anything but school, because I was on a track. I was like, well, now I'm succeeding. I kind of have I get like stuck, and I'm like, I have a hard time letting go of like the thing that's working. I'm like, and so, but yeah, then I went on to get my master's degree, and I entered a dual master's in social work and master's in public health program. And because I was like, yeah, well, I'm going to like overachieve and do 2 master's degrees.
Well, once you got the bug, you're like, I'm actually good at school and I like learning.
And I got really good at applying to scholarships. And so I had my grants.
That also helps.
So financial aid. So I was like, yeah, like, and I'd networked and I'd gotten, just by being an older student in class, like I met the professors and they were like offering me different research opportunities that provided funding.
Yep.
And yeah, it was just like all networking. And now I teach in the School of Social Work at CSU. So I'm like working with the people who really helped to like elevate me in my career path. And I think the pandemic for me was a big disruptor in both work and my recovery. So I haven't shared this like super widely because recovery is pretty personal, but I do like being really open about my own recovery. And I feel like in the workplace in particular, there's so much stigma around recovery and folks who are like kind of out and open about that, but most people don't feel like they're in a space to. But I feel like I do have quite a few privileged identities that I can sort of like layer in front of recovery and be like, yeah, what are you like? Yeah. Anyways, like I am like very fortunate that I can be an ally for others and also just like share my own story. But the pandemic was a disruptor for a lot. I ended up withdrawing from my master's program in spring of 2020, right at the beginning, and like right at the beginning of the semester, my dad was in end stage cancer. It was just hospice, and I went back to visit and I was like, I can't leave. And so I dropped out of the program, and it was one of these things where they're like, oh, he has 6 months. And I was like, well, I'm going to help my stepmom like in any way I can. And it was 6 weeks and he passed, and I'm really fortunate to have spent that time with him. But literally he passed away at the beginning of March 2020. And I was like been not paying attention to the news. And then I was like, all right, like I'm ready to like process with people and get some support and move back home. And I was like, well, shut down. Yeah. Like it was like the worst time to like be able to like have support for grief. And I didn't have a job anymore and I didn't have school. And I was kind of like, what am I going to do like now? And I did just kind of bump along and try to figure it out for a few months. But then I went back, I re-enrolled I was just withdrawn or like took a break from the program. And then I like went back and was continuing the program and working. I took part-time in the program and then I was working full-time. And actually and this is the part that I want to share is that like, as someone who went through recovery treatment pretty early, I had always in the back of my head, even though I'm like certified addiction specialist, did my bachelor's in social work, and like I had all this knowledge, I've worked in the field, I still had this lingering thing of like, well, maybe I was just like really young and like it was just a phase, and maybe I'm not actually like suffering some sort of substance use disorder. And sort of I had that thought process, and as the pandemic was like kind of lifting, I was really just craving social connection, and Fort Collins is like 90% breweries, and I just had coworkers who were like, hey, you want to go to the brewery? And it was like such a quick decision of like, well, I'm like not, I was like open with my wife and I was like, yeah, I'm thinking about trying drinking, like, and she's like, oh, okay, like good for you, trying new things, you know, or like kind of self-reflection. And yeah, and it like didn't go well, not surprisingly. Like it didn't go it wasn't as bad like as it was before, when I was like spiraling and like using, you know, heroin and like other substances, but like that was like a much more dangerous experience. But now I just had so much more to lose if it went further, and I had a lot more self-awareness, and I could see where this was like not a good path. And it was a little bumpy. It was like probably 8 months of like a couple months sober, and like I had a relapse, and then I was fortunate to be in the school system of like counseling support, and so I got connected, and I was able to like re-engage with recovery. It was pretty quick where I was like, I need to get back on the recovery program. And I was fortunate not to have to like enroll in like a big program. But I'm open about that because I know a lot of folks feel like when they do relapse, they're like, I'm back at zero. Like that's a big part of my identity. And I had held it for a while. Like I'm in recovery, I'm sober, and I had all this time, and I was like, oh, I just threw it all away. Like, what was I thinking? There's a lot of shame in that. And I think for young folks who go through programs when like you're gonna like think like, oh, maybe I can, maybe I can go back. But if your whole friend group is like people who are sober now, you're like, who can I tell? Who's either gonna like tell me to go shut up and be in the corner and just listen because you know nothing. And I'm like, I didn't lose all that time I had. Like I was sober from 20 to 30 and I still had that. And so I got engaged with Smart Recovery this time. I had never been to a Smart Recovery meeting before, but my therapist was like, you should try this. And it was newer to the area. And I've just been going to Smart meetings for it's almost 3 years now that I've been sober again in recovery for this like kind of second round. And I'm really fortunate to be able to have like, I value that like relapse experience because I learned so much and I'm way more engaged with self-work than I was a few years ago. And I found more community through this and been able to support. Now I'm a facilitator for Smart and I have really helped to expand. We like formed a nonprofit to help expand like Smart Recovery and some other social peer like stuff in Northern Colorado. And I'm just like fortunate to have that experience. And now I'm, so I work at Colorado State University. I'm in the Career Center. I work with students helping them to figure out like kind of the next phase of their life, like either while they're in school, what they can do to be successful or after they finish their degree and they're like, what do I do with the rest of my life? And about 6 months ago now, like I was started to really reflect on like, well, I've had all this experience. I'm continuing to help people in recovery. Like, and I just see and can reflect on the need that I had probably for someone to help me kind of clarify what you want to do with your life. I've kind of been on this track and I don't know if that's the right one for me. And so I started to do career coaching with folks who are in recovery or sober curious or like have some other barrier that's like kind of causing them to be stuck. And so, that's been going great and I really enjoyed it. So I now split my time between doing career coaching virtually with folks in this space and young folks in particular, like 18 to 35 is kind of the area that resonates with me. Maybe it'll change once I'm older. I'll be like, I want to work with like only like this age group. That's my identity, but I really enjoyed
your personal experience really like plays a factor and people can't see you in this interview. They can hopefully but hear it in your voice. Like you're really passionate, like your own journey reflects that like joy that comes in meeting somebody where they're at and helping them figure it out and explore and find that. Like I even think about when you said again earlier, like, oh, I'm actually good at this college thing. I actually like education. I'm like kind of interested in more. I think it's actually beneficial to have more people kind of pause at 18 and kind of figure it out later. But just who you are as a person, your journey, I think that really reflects and will probably resonate with a lot of people you work with. But I'm going to ask you this one question. And then we're going to drive people to connect with you. So we'll have links to connect with Fred in the show notes because this is just a snapshot of your journey, who you are. And I want people that are listening to be curious, right? Like you're in Fort Collins. That's great. There's a lot of students at CSU that could benefit in using you. And there's a lot of people nationwide and worldwide that can actually like, it would be awesome for them to connect with you. So call to action for any parent or young adult listening to this, like reach out to Fred. Okay. Now that you've shared your full journey, and I know that this is a little bit of a, for somebody that was in private school growing up, driven towards going to school, all the things, looking back on your journey and where you are now, do you see yourself as successful?
I knew this question was coming because last week I listened to like 4 of your most recent episodes in a row on a bike ride. And so like I spent like a few hours like, what am I going to say to this question?
No pressure.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to, so when I was in Mountainside Treatment Center, I'm going to deviate with a story that links back. Go for it. There was an activity where you have like the chair sitting in your chair and there's a chair in front of you and you have to like talk to your like pasts. I had to talk to my past self, like chair. Where I'm at, empty chair. Like, okay, you're talking to yourself in, like 15 years in the future, probably like exactly where I am like now. And it's like, what would you give, like advice would you give to your former self? And I was pretty compassionate, I think, with like myself. I was like pretty self-aware. But anyway, like if I was in kind of that reflection, I felt like in a similar space with this question. And I would say absolutely. Like it was a rocky road. And I think the only part I'm like, I regret is any people that I hurt along the way or pain I caused. And I'm really proud of where I am today. And I value the people in my life. And so, yes, I definitely find myself successful and appreciate where I'm at and all the people that are in my life. I think relationships are, and the support of others is, what I value most.
Thank you for sharing that. And I think I'm just like
putting this bug in your ear. At some point in the not so distant future, we're going to circle back and just have a conversation about like what career counseling even looks like, especially in this day and age, because there's just a lot of pressure and a lot of variation. And so sometimes it's almost too overwhelming for somebody to like hone in, like, where do I even start? And so I'm not asking you to like give free career counseling, but honestly, just kind of like shedding light on what career counseling looks like in this time. But we're out of time, speaking of it. So Fred, thank you again for taking a moment to share your story, being a guest on the podcast. And I know somebody's listening to this and they're going to resonate with it, and hopefully they reach out to you.
Great. Thank you so much for having me.
That's it for this week's Success is Subjective episode. We want to thank our guest for joining Joanna on the show this week and for being willing to share your journey. This podcast would not exist if it weren't for people such as yourself. Stay tuned for our next episode, where you can bet it'll be another amazing human sharing their personal story with the world. Make sure you check out the show notes, where you will find contact information, website details, and all social media for our guest. If you're interested in being a guest on the podcast, you can email joanna@lilleyconsulting.com. Be sure to check out the lilleyconsulting.com website for additional resources outside of podcasting. Now, if you're listening to the show on Apple Podcasts, please subscribe. And while you're at it, feel free to leave a review. You can also download to listen to the Success is Subjective podcast on other popular podcast apps, such as Audible, Google Podcast, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn Radio. Thanks again for listening in, and remember, there is no single path through life. Success is what you make it.